comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the interview series where I interview cool collectors, cool YouTubers as well, and sometimes artists, and sometimes all of the three. So this is the case with Comics Limited. It's going to be an interview with Travis, who I met through my friend Bigby McFly, the comic guy. He Travis and Bigby were both doing what they call the comic book shout out, where they encourage other channels to basically shout out smaller channels or channels that they like, and basically encourage more community involvement. And they actually got a huge number of views across all these shout out videos that were happening on multiple channels. And to encourage people to sort of shout out other channels, they were doing original art giveaway. Well, Travis is a really good artist, and he was, giving away original art as one of the prizes for these monthly videos that people were creating. And without further ado, let's bring Travis into into the show, and he can tell more about it.
Hey,
how's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing, Alan?
Okay, hopefully that intro was okay.
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. I loved it.
So first of all, how did you get, like, I always ask this, how did you get started into comics? Like, what was your origin story, I guess?
Okay, so my origin story goes way back. So both of my grandmothers both saw that I was really good. Yes. Okay. Both of my grandmothers, my grandmother Ruby and my grandmother Letha. My grandmother Letha was an artist. She was a painter.
Oh, okay.
And so I actually have a couple of her paintings up around the house. So I had shown interest in sketching. So I was sketching people and doing different kinds of sketches. My initial sketches were like I would scribble circles and then make arms and legs off of them. I never did the stick figure guy. My stick figure people were
always like circles,
basically big circles, scribbled circles.
Probably better.
and so she saw that and she wanted to encourage that. And so she bought me she asked me if I was interested in any of this company she had heard of, this company called Dark Horse Comics. Okay. And so one of the very first comics she showed me, she goes, I want to buy you one comic. Which one? And she's like, it was Black Flag, Boris the Bear. And then let me think, there was I can't remember what the other one was, but then there was this one called Mecha. And as a little kid, we used to go. I had family in Walla Walla, Washington. So if you've ever watched an old cartoon, everything was all the salespeople were from Walla Walla, Washington, right? And they always say because it sounds cute, yeah, right. And so we'd go visit my aunt there, and on Saturday mornings they would have at 5 a.m. they would have Star Blazers, the cartoon. American,
I like Star Blazers. I was a big fan of it.
Love it. It was like in fact, just a few years ago, Funimation on their channel put a remastered version of the whole series up, and I watched it straight through, and it was awesome. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Best $5.99 I've spent in a long time. Because for the monthly subscription fee for them, that is great, and you get tons of content.
Paid by Funimation.
Yeah, here we go. Their comic book shout out, Funimation.
Yeah.
And so that actually, when I saw that, and then she saw the comic, this comic that she wanted to get me was Mecha. I was like, that one, yeah, I want that one, and it was really cool because it was like an early.
That's kind of like Robotech, isn't it? Like
it's like Robotech. And it was, but it was put out by Dark Horse. It was like a 4-issue series, and then they did relaunch something like it in the 90s. I remember like with X and all the other characters they did. So, but then my other grandmother, Ruby, my mom's mom, she remembered like the other heroes like Captain America, Iron Man, all these other stuff, and so. She was like, she just went to a spinner rack one Saturday. Because I would go up there and hang out with them, like not every weekend, but often. and so she would buy me one-off issues of a comic book. I remember, like, I think my first Iron Man was like, the first comic I got was like Iron Man 151. I don't even remember what it was,
Okay.
but all I remember is that Iron Man was on the cover, and it was really cool comic. And it had something to do with that he was trying to get his armor back because technology had been stolen. I remember that. I
Okay.
don't know if that was 151 or not, but I don't have that comic anymore. I devoured it as a child and used it to draw all kinds of stuff on it. So it was kind of like these little things here and there. I'd get a comic book here and there. And then when I got into junior high, and how one of the things how I met Bigby, and we had a friend that went by the moniker Edge because of how it's his initials, EDJ.
Okay.
And so and we did comic book stuff together all the time. And they and I was like, they were doing comic books. They were talking comic books all the time. They're talking X-Men and all this stuff. And I was really interested. So but I had to be my own person, right? I wasn't going to go just buy an X-Men comic because, well, they're talking about X. I don't know why. It was just, I was silly. So I didn't, I go down to this local market, which is, the house you see in the background here, this house that I live in, is the house I grew up in. And I know I'm not going to give any much details, but the market that had the comic books, the spinner rack, is still there. It's still
nice.
up the street. So
wow.
the spinner rack's not there, but the market's there, and it's actually the same name. And so I rode my bike there one day. I think I was going to buy some 10-cent candy or something like that. And it's back in the day when we'd drive 3 or 4 miles away from home, and no big deal. Yeah, right. And so I rode to this market, and I picked up X Factor number 14 and DP7 number 1, and because those kind of look like mutant comics, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. And so, and it's a number 1, DP7 number 1, and so
so Dark Horse presents number 7. What is that?
No, Dark Horse. It wasn't Dark Horse Presents. It was DP7. It was. I can't remember what it stands for, but it was the Marvel New Universe characters.
Oh, okay. I was thinking like Dark Horse.
And it was like,
It
was they're mutants in that world, right? With Starbrand and and Night Mask and a whole Spitfire, and so they had that whole universe, that New Universe storyline. And they've brought some of that story in. I mean, Jonathan Hickman brought some of those characters in his Avengers run. So and that anyway, and so those were my first 2 comics that I bought myself. And then the third comic bought was it's an X-Men cover. I can't remember the number. It's not 210. It's although 210 is a cool cover. It's Welcome to the X-Men. You're gonna hope you survive. Well, the next one I'm thinking of is actually Havoc on the cover. It's an Al Milgram's cover, and the X-Men are all standing around him, and it's Welcome to the X-Men, Havoc, hope you survive. It was like the same line, and the same thread kind of going on, and it was the post Mutant Massacre issue, and it was Havoc's first issue, and it actually starts the Chris Claremont story arc that has 4 pictures inside on that first page on that cover. I wanted to get X-Men books out, and I couldn't get to my X-Men books because we're doing a whole shift of comic stuff. My father-in-law's helping me out, doing stuff, so I didn't get that one out. But I did bring an X-Men comic.
I'll make you big here. 1 second, so you can show it.
And if I can get to it fast enough. Of course, I buried it halfway down the pile.
That's what always happens. The one you want is usually at the bottom, or
right. Well, so I have a group of books I call the wall books, because I have this art on the wall, not this comic book. I mean, actually, this cover actually is on the wall in a like 11 by 17 size picture.
Is this art that you bought, or is this art that you?
Yeah, it's art I bought, and you're gonna love it. I paid 10 cents for it.
For the art.
For the art. It's not. It's a print. It's a print, but it was printed, and then laminated to wood, so it's
Okay.
like it's got framed out, and it was they did a bunch of these type of things. I want to say early 2000s with different covers,
Oh,
and
okay.
X-Men 97 is one of them. The reason why I want to show this is because there's Havoc, of course, fighting Cyclops,
Yeah.
and Storm in the background and all this stuff. And it's a great Cockrum cover, right? No, Cockrum. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Cockrum and Buckingham. So
Okay.
and I mean it. This kind of this was one of those. This is kind of one of my Grail books for me actually, because I've never owned an X-Men under 100. In fact, I would say I didn't own any X-Men under 124 for the
Okay.
longest time, just because I never thought I could afford them because they were always out of
Yeah, they
reach.
were the
And
kind
I
of the
mean,
bigger books. Yeah.
right, and I'm a dad. I've got kids. I've got house. All the stuff,
Yeah.
and I have a job, right? And
Mhm.
so that stuff was kind of out of reach, and I didn't think that I could buy a lesser graded book. I mean, you can kind of see this one's a little faded and the colors aren't as
Mhm.
perfect, but you know, I mean, I have two of these now. I have one that's got a staple pull and it's broken staple, but the colors are beautiful, presents
Mhm.
really nice. And this one doesn't present as nice, but it's perfect copy to you could read this copy and wouldn't have to worry about it falling apart. And
Yeah.
that I that's just really cool. I mean, one of those books that I kind of cherish. But
Mhm.
I mean, speaking towards this whole idea of the wall book, so um my wife and I, we bought, and this goes away from telling the story. We have some art. We buy posters at times and things like that. There was this really
Mhm.
cool poster that she talked me into at the shop that had all these Marvel covers, like classic
Okay.
Marvel covers on it, right? And so I bought that, and I'm like, I don't want this to go to waste. This is really a beautiful piece,
Mhm.
and the way the covers are, they're not perfect. They're all kind of, I would say, mid-grade
Raggedy or
books.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're all about mid-grade on the look of them. Some of them are pretty perfect, and some of
Is
them are
they did that on
mid-grade.
purpose to kind of give it that like red look and kind of
I
more.
don't know if that's what it's like. Yeah, maybe, but I think some of it is they just found a copy of that book and they wanted to have it on the poster, and I think and they didn't care what the book liked as long as the colors were good. And
Oh, okay.
so I've been slowly but surely buying those books, and I mean I have it's a there's 45 books on the poster,
Okay.
and they're all uh silver and bronze.
Okay.
So I
So
haven't
all
I
like
have
classic covers kind of idea. Is that
yeah,
the?
yeah, classic covers. I mean the first Black Widow's on there, so it's
Oh,
that talk
okay.
about a hot book. uh
Yeah.
Hulk 181 is on there, and
Oh,
another book
okay.
that's
So
outer
big
edge,
big
or
books too. Yeah.
right, or the first appearance of or Marvel Spotlight on #1 with Ghost Rider, right? So the another big book, ones
Mhm.
that are really kind of out of my price range.
Yeah.
In my packing of what I have a older facsimile of Hulk 181 in there to just kind of be a placeholder.
Mhm.
Um, but the first book I got was funny. I won a 9.6 in not in an auction, but in a just as a giveaway in a on a Whatnot show.
Oh, wow.
I
That's
won a
nice.
9.6 She-Hulk #1 on a
Oh,
Whatnot show,
wow.
and that was a really cool book to win.
Like
I
Savage
think
She-Hulk or the
yeah,
Sensation?
Savage She-Hulk #1, the white cover and everything.
What?
Yeah, it was
That's
so
insane. That's
yeah,
a
and that
real.
was and that's literally the first book I got for the box, the cover book. So,
Wow.
but
Very cool.
so I mean, my history with comics kind of has been one of those ones where we had a local the Brian and I went to the same places that Brian went to buy comics or
Mhm.
and Edge, and we went. So there was this bookstore called Vintage Books. It's still there too, by the way.
Mhm.
And the owners, I've known the owners for years. In fact, when I was in high school, we did some missionary work, and they supported me on my little missionary work trip, and because we were
Okay.
building
That's
houses
cool.
in Mexico. So we it was a lot of fun. So they've known me for years. My girls go in there and buy books from them because they like their books.
Mhm.
But they don't do comics anymore. But they used to have subscription shelves there, and so that was my first subscription shelf, and that was back. Marvel comics were still 65 cents, and then they went up to 75 cents when I was there. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
like I bought my first two comic books,
This is like
the next thing.
80s, I guess, would be
Yeah,
the time period.
80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and my parents had to sign off on some of the books that I got because I wanted some mature books. Like Alien Legion was one of my favorite.
Oh,
Was one
okay.
of my favorite.
Yeah, that's
Larry
more
Strode
like,
art is
yeah.
awesome. And so I tend to read comics. When I was younger, I read comics based off of art. So art was the thing that drew me in. So like,
Yeah.
you know, Barry Windsor Smith. I mean, that Iron Man issue that he did, the drunk Iron Man issue where he's kind of going through
Yeah, I like that.
the alcoholic stupor and all the different things that happen and the technology. And man, it just I was like, whoa, I've got to get anything and everything I can of Barry Windsor Smith's work. So I went back and I picked up X-Men 205, you know, that Wolverine cover and that Wolverine issue. I mean, introducing the Marauders and that fight, and it was, you know, it's so intense and so cool. And then you know, and then of course the Life Death and Life Death 2, and then I wish Marvel would have gone further and actually done Life Death 3. I think that would have been amazing. And then he did some more covers for stuff like actually, speaking of him, I actually do have a cover of Barry Windsor Smith. It's not an X, but
is it a Conan or something like that, or
no. I should have grabbed the Conan book, but I grabbed New Mutants number 46.
Is that Barry Windsor Smith?
It is Barry Windsor Smith.
Almost looks like Perez, or for some reason.
Yeah, well, you can tell it's Windsor Smith by the line structure, like in right here in the on her back, and then the face structure, Colossus face structure. It's Barry Windsor Smith now. I don't think he inked it. I think this was inked by Joe Jusko.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why it looks a little bit different. Now there's a bunch of covers he did for both for the New Mutants and for other stuff, and the art it's just really interesting because you can tell that it's Barry Windsor Smith, but something's a little off, and it's because it's not
inked by somebody else. Yeah,
it's inked by somebody else. And so yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite Barry Windsor Smith cover, but it is a Barry Windsor Smith cover. And I mean, the line structure of Barry Windsor Smith that I really like, let me see if I can get close enough. And I really like, if you look at how he drew Colossus and the cheekbones and the how he drew him, he doesn't look like he's super strong, but he looks strong enough, right? And then it's kind of the structure, and it kind of has this flow, and it's very organic.
So I'm always thinking like the 90s style of Colossus, where he's much more like muscles, like just like out the wazoo, like just like these crazy muscles. Yeah, that's a much more lean looking Colossus.
Right. And that's Colossus after Mutant Massacre. So that's probably where he gets lean. I mean, you know, it's not like my character behind me here that I created. That's,
I was going to ask you about that.
Incredible Panda.
Incredible Panda. Okay.
Yeah, there was a local church, New Heights Church, was doing a superhero themed summer event, and they commissioned me to do four pieces. Oh, nice. And this is one of the pieces I hated because it was supposed to be a Wonder Woman takeoff, and it was going to be Wonder Moose. And then and I had drawn it shapely, and someone didn't like it.
Well, probably because it's church related, or
yeah, but it wasn't gaudy. It was shapely, you know. Like I mean, it wasn't you know, it wasn't Adam Hughes. It was actually, you know, now that I think about it, I think the picture I used was an Adam Hughes Wonder Woman to kind of base it off of. So that might have been the problem there. Anyway, I did that. I had the Mighty Bee, which looked like it was a bee that was flying through the city, and it kind of armored. And then I had a chipmunk, and I can't remember what the chipmunk's name was, but basically looked kind of like it was a Frank Miller Daredevil homage, where Frank Miller's where Daredevil's dropping and his arms are up. Yeah. The chipmunk is doing that same pose, dropping down with green cape, and the one that really survived. The other two of the paintings got damaged in our in moving, and so
Mhm.
I mean, like serious damage, like hole punctured through
Oh,
them, and
wow.
so it was like, yeah, okay. And this one was the one I had hanging up at work for the whole time when I used to have to go into the office full time. I had art up all over my cubicle because other
Mhm.
people had art up over their cubicles, and there was like fine arts and stuff you'd buy at like City Liquidators fine art,
Mhm.
things you'd find in a hotel. And I was like,
Okay.
I don't like that. I'm going to put my own stuff up. So I put this
Wow.
one up in my cubicle, and then I had a bunch of little
I can
drawings that I
imagine
would do
people would be
handwritten.
like, "Oh, that's really cool." Like, what?
Yeah, yeah. So this was actually there's a Hulk cover that kind of has the same. I don't. Oh wait, let me see. That
Yeah.
has kind of a similar structure to this.
Okay.
But then I went and looked at a real panda's head to capture the panda. So it's
Mhm.
like like kind of we were talking about the shark last night
Yep.
for
For
Obido's drawing,
Obidos. Yep.
and I did. Does he go by Obido? Am
Obito.
I
I never
saying
know how to pronounce it properly. I always mispronounce it. So I
me too?
Obito or Obito. I
Right.
don't know.
So
The reason I say Obito is like I think of like the first uh, Usagi,
oh yeah,
which
yeah,
is albedo. So I just
yeah.
make it Albi.
Well, no, it makes sense. I totally can.
So I get them too mixed in my mind. It's like so I mess up his
I
name every time.
I love it. I think that's a great. I think we should just change it for him.
Yeah, yeah. It's like so
So
Obito. I think
yeah,
it's I think you're pronouncing it correctly. Obito.
right.
Yeah.
Obito. Well, so the structure came all out of that idea, and then I just kind of followed the lightning bolt thing. All of them either had a lightning bolt circle on their chest, or I did something in the background with it, and so that was so they had these 4 posters up around their stage. So
Hmm.
that's and then when they were done, instead of just sticking them away because they were like, we're done. I mean, they paid me for each of them, and then they gave them back to me. I
That's
was like,
nice.
but you paid for them. They're like, yeah, so we're not going to use them again. Like,
So they just make. Did they make posters? What did they do with them?
they just I think they made little card poster things that they handed out, and part of the thing, or they had cards as well that were a part of the whole thing for
That's
kids to
cool that you
have.
get to make something and then keep it and then get paid for it
Yeah,
too.
yeah. It was cool. I enjoyed it. I mean, yeah, art has been a big part of my life forever. So I mean, I've done all different kinds of art for all different kinds of places for all different kinds of people. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, when Big B used to have a comic shop, I would actually sit in the shop. I worked there, right? I would go and work a
Yeah, and
few
you
hours.
doodle while
Yeah,
waiting for customers.
draw. I was waiting for customers, and usually it would be like it would be drawing most of the time during the day,
Hmm.
and then on the days that he couldn't be there, I would be the guy doing that. And then I had 2 nights a week I'd close so that he could not have to be there at closing
Yeah,
time. But most of the time I would be doing it was when I was during the daytime when I get like 5 people coming in, and then all of a sudden around 3 o'clock when school got out,
then it'd
I'd
be
get
like the rush. Like,
rushed. It would
yeah,
be like, oh, it's Pokemon time.
yeah,
The other guy would come into work, and man, Pokemon, Mage Knight, everything, and then we'd get a couple comic book guys coming in. We had, I want to say, we had 200 shelf customers, so it was
oh
pretty,
wow,
pretty, pretty impressive. So
that's pretty.
on Tuesday night, we would have to do a bunch of stuff like that. So
Hmm.
it was pretty intense.
Yeah, I can
So
imagine. So yeah, how about you show some of the books from your collection, and then we'll.
sure. So I kind of did a thing where I kind of wanted to go with like artists that I like.
Oh, okay.
And so I picked a Peach Momoko Virgin cover that was a I know this sounds weird. I don't know if it was an eBay special, but they did a
Okay.
couple of these like this
So it's
where, and this is,
like a limited
yeah,
variant or something.
like,
Yeah.
so there were only 1,000 of this made, and then there were 3,000 made of the trade dress of
Okay.
this version. She did other of Thor and what my brain just blanked on what her name is.
Jane Foster.
Jane Foster and Thor, and so she did a regular cover for Marvel, and this was one that they did as a for special that I think only sold on eBay.
Oh, nice.
And and the reason why I picked Peach is because I actually remember that I want to say that when I first was at the comic shop, there were some Peach, like, Japanese size, the Japanese graphic novels that she had done when she first was starting out.
That's
I used
when
to
she
have
first
those.
started. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and they were awesome. I loved her stories. They were so good and so interesting. And I'm so happy to see that she's saying other things. I mean, I picked up all of her Demon Days books.
So did I. Actually,
I just love her art. It's just really, it's fresh. It's kind of a manga. It's kind of not. It has.
For me, she's hit or miss. Like sometimes I really like her art, and then sometimes it's kind of meh. It's a little bit muddled. I find. Like, do you know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, there's that Venom cover that she did, the orange cover, and it's supposed to be a Venom with going through, I think, bamboo, and it just doesn't translate. And I totally get that.
Yeah,
totally.
I'll let you keep on showing stuff here.
So this one, now the reason why I'm showing Spider-Boy,
okay.
This is, of course, the second printing, which is the Virgin variant.
Oh, that's the second print. I have two of the first
print,
by the way.
Yeah, I also have two of the first print, and I have one of the first print that's signed by Ramos.
Oh, nice.
But the reason why I just love this character. Every little story nugget that I have read so far about this character is fabulous. I love his concept. I love his idea. I love that he's kind of orphaned from all the different things that have happened in Marvel, and that he has some unique spider powers and it appears that Mr. Negative caused him to have his powers. So that's an interesting tie-in, and it kind of goes back to Aunt May working for whatever Mr. Negative's name is. I can't think of it right now, but working for that place, and so he was kind of not allowed to go in. And then in the Edge of the Spider-Verse story, where it kind of gives a little bit of his origin, they actually show him that a family takes him in, a family takes him in as you can come and be a part of our family. Is
Spider-Boy going to be sort of like a Robin kind of character?
I don't know.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, sort of like the young boy version of like a Batman. Yeah. Like, sort of that kind of relationship where.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we haven't quite because it's weird because people don't know he exists, and so it's kind of this weird.
Well, yeah, he's been sort of wiped out of people's memories. I got that.
Yeah, and so he does have that kind of Robin-esque feel to him, but he also has. Yeah, because he is totally an orphan in this situation, because his family was completely wiped out too, so they're gone.
Yeah.
And so I think what I like about him, so in the storyline, so maybe a little spoilery here from what if you haven't been reading Spider-Man. Okay, good, doesn't matter. So in Spider-Man, the storyline that Dan Slott's writing, in that storyline, which seems to be taking place before what is transpiring in Amazing Spider-Man right now. Norman helps Peter enhance his spider sense so that he can help. He starts because he notices when he was in great danger that he noticed that he could feel other people's danger for other people, not just himself. And so he's like, I can save more people if I can feel when they're in danger. I can go and help them. And so he has Norman help him enhance his spider sense, which
that's basically a weird choice, but okay.
Yeah. Well, so Norman's been kind of a good guy for a while now. He went through the Sin Eater ate his evil and took away that. And so he's been atoning for stuff and even to the point where his son who came back before he died for Peter and Mary Jane and Norman, forgave him. and that was kind of the linchpin where he's like, I'm going to be a good guy. Like I'm creating my own goblin suit, and it's going to be the Gold Goblin. I'm a good guy now, and that was how the Gold Goblin came about.
Okay.
Plus, he's got a grandson he cares about, and he's got his daughter-in-law, and that whole story is kind of a wild tale because his grandson is the Red Goblin, and so what? But he helps Peter because Peter's like, I got to do this because I got to save all the people. Which I think this story takes place while Mary Jane. No, this isn't yet. Mary Jane isn't gone yet. Anyway, but Spider-Boy's powers are that already, and
he already has that enhanced sense.
And so he's like, no, you can't do this, Peter. You did this before, and he's like trying to get him to not do it, or tell him to stop it because it's going to kill you because. Literally, your brain is going to explode from hearing everybody's woes. From preparing to stub their toe type situation.
Yeah, I always consider it sort of like the idea of Superman. If you have super hearing, you can hear the whole world. Well, that's a lot of voices to like kind of drowns out your own thoughts even.
Yeah. So, well, speaking of that, I always what I really appreciated about the Man of Steel movie, right? That Zack Snyder did. What I really appreciated how Martha helped him
kind of get ground
that.
And,
And I loved how it was the mother's voice, this family person bringing him back to it just it kind of built a really good mythos for that story and for the character and gave him a way that was I think was really, really awesome myself. That's I'm a big fan of that movie in particular. Of out of all the Snyder movies, that's the one that I really like. I really enjoy. I could watch that one over and over again, just like I can watch all of the Christopher Nolan Batman. Like I love the Christopher Nolan Batman. I think it's one of the best trilogies of a superhero series ever made.
It was much more serious than the earlier Batman movies I found.
Yeah, I felt like Dark Knight, the second movie, was was too serious, right? It was almost too it was too much. And then what I really loved was how the third movie was really redemptive. All the way through, it was all about being redeeming something, redeeming out of the pit or redeeming Batman out of the pit after Bane breaks his back and all that stuff. And to me, that movie, when I'm sad, when I'm down, when I'm not feeling good, that's the movie I watch. That's one of those movies I watch because I love how it's redemptive and comes back, and there's all these moments of redemption throughout the whole movie. So cool. Yeah. So let me show you another book.
Yeah. we go off topic a bit there.
Well, it's okay. You just call me Rabbit Trail. That's my middle name. So this is a book from the early 2000s, maybe no 90s. Phantom Guard.
Okay.
It was an image. It's an Image title. Came out of Homage Studios before they were Wildstorm.
Oh,
it was created by Rufner, the guy who co-created Backlash with Brett Booth, and it's one of Ryan Benjamin's first things.
Interesting.
And it was a 6-issue miniseries. It's probably one of my favorite stories out of that era. And I've had this particular comic book. I have had it. This is the one I bought. And it's a preview issue. I'm thinking it actually, the tape is sticky. If I'm correct, it was a preview out of a different comic. Oh no, it was just a special preview in and of itself. Oh no, it was inside another comic. It was polybagged with a different comic. I can't remember. It might have even been the first issue of Brett Booth's. I'm betting it's Brett Booth's first. It was Backlash or one of the Backlash issues. It was.
Okay.
Because it was Rufner and he was the one who did that with Brett Booth. And then I had to find a comic that a John Cassidy comic, because that he's like one of my favorite artists. I love John Cassidy. I could have had the Captain America series, that the 5 issues he did for that Captain America series. Um, just about anything out there. But then I was thinking, a comic book that I've had since it came out, the whole time that I in my collection. So there are times I buy and sell books all the time, right? And I bought and sold my whole collection many
Oh,
times.
wow.
But there are stuff that I always keep, right? And so Planetary,
Oh, I've heard of Planetary. Yeah.
the secret history of the Wildstorm universe, which
Mhm.
was kind of their tie-in to the DC universe, because it was like right around the time where Jim Lee was talking about selling. So this is a preview that was in the back of another comic, and it's upside down to the other comic. The other comic is meaningless. It doesn't have any meaning. It's like C23 or something like that. It's not even worth even mentioning. Other than other than to find this. And it's like C23 number 3.
Okay.
So it's some random
random issue of
But this preview, when you read it, you're like, what? And then and you're like, when's the next issue come out? And so when issue 1 came out, I was just because this story is not a part of issue 1. It is in and of its own little story. And then you have issue 1, which then is this whole, they build this whole storyline. The Planetary storyline is just this amazing. Basically, imagine if the Fantastic Four had been evil. What if the Fantastic Four had been evil?
Yeah.
And so they controlled metahumans or mutants or whatever on the Earth. And so as things they time travel, they have all this, they defeat their version of Doom. They go back in time, defeat Kang, and steal his time traveling stuff.
Wow.
Not their version of Kang. They don't say
yeah. It's
and then they go after all the DC superheroes, like a version of them. Like there's
sort of like a Batman, sort of Superman kind of.
Yeah, there's a character. There's a Green Lantern that's a Blue Lantern. The Lantern comes to Earth. They go after the Lantern. They kill the person who's at it, and they then damage the Lantern and send a message.
Is this like done basically because a lot of these artists came from DC as a way of sort of saying, hey, look, DC, that's what we think of you.
I think since, because this is Jim Lee's stuff, and, Jim Lee sold to DC or partnered with DC right, as a publisher. I think this was more of a slap in the face to Marvel saying, you guys got it wrong. Fantastic Four would be evil if they got that kind of power.
Oh, okay.
and 2, I think that's where the slap in the face comes from. But I think the other side of this is, I think Jim Lee was courting DC with this by, look what we can do with these characters,
your kind of characters,
and hey, guess what? We just blew up the Themyscira. Boom, gone, totally gone. And then let's integrate every movie from the monster movies and ghost movies and all this. Integrate that all into our storyline as well. I mean, there was some really cool stuff that was going on in there. Cool. So my next book, another artist book, but also a book of a title that I currently collect, Batman. I know I'm derivative. I collect Batman, but it's the anniversary issue 400. And the reason why I want to share this one is because it's a Bill Sienkiewicz cover. And I love his Sienkiewicz. Maybe I said it wrong. Sienkiewicz. Anyway, yeah. He is by far one of my favorite artists. And to the point that I brought a second book with me, just so I could have one of the most iconic covers that he's ever done. The Demon Bear cover. And I just he's one of those artists that inspired me when I was younger. I loved his stuff. His stuff was so different and not the same as every other comic book that was out there, and
very minimalistic line work, very
but
very imaginative,
and such powerful, explosive things that you would see in his work. And then so sticking to the artist thing, and which basically I could have done all of these artists in X-Men. Rick Leonardi, and this one's going to be a little reflective. There we go. Rick Leonardi is another artist that I absolutely love. This guy's art, I don't know, his stuff on X-Men, this book in particular, the way he designs, and it has this kind of graphic style to his art where he gives you an idea of what he's drawing, and then just kind of it. In fact, when I look at this art, I think of this is the guy that must have inspired Tim Sale in how he inks and how he black things in, and I never talked to Tim Sale about that, of course, but I wanted to, but the line was too long. The last con I was at where he was at, and then subsequently he passed away, unfortunately. But this, I mean, he's one of those artists that just he always delivered, and it was always something that I always felt like he was fun. The way he drew things would always kind of go with it, and I loved his run in X-Men which was opposite of Silvestri, and that storyline where he was doing the storyline that was taking place on the island of that mutant island, and Silvestri was doing the stuff that was in Australia, and they were going back and forth, and it was like that twice monthly book that they did for a while with that, and it was kind of one of those things where I was like, wow, that is so cool. And then when the stories come together, that's when Jim Lee comes into the picture and takes over at X-Men right there, and they go and do other things. I think that's when Rick Leonardi started that series. So another book I brought
nice.
was Silver Surfer #1, the John Byrne issue. Stan Lee, John Byrne.
That was my very first Silver Surfer book that I bought.
That's awesome. You know what? Funny thing. You know what, Al? I think this is the very first Silver Surfer book that I bought as well. I'm not kidding. I mean, I had opportunities to buy other Silver Surfer stuff, the more recent run by Ron Lim and those guys, but I never bought any of it because the character was interesting to me. But every time the one comic that I really wanted was the Mobius stuff, that 2-issue miniseries by Mobius, and I could never find both issues. It was always I'd find number 2. I always find number 2, so I never buy it, and I still haven't bought it. I should just go get.
You want to get it as a set or something, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I want to because I want to be able to read the whole thing all at once. Just like it was really cool to buy Silver Surfer Black when I bought Silver Surfer Black because I was able to buy the whole run and read that story all the way through, and the art was really interesting and fun, and that was I like the Silver Surfer, and in fact I can't wait to. Because Silver Surfer
is he ever going to come into the movies again? Okay.
I don't know. I think the Fantastic Four storyline kind of sounds like that. It's going to happening.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think we're going to. And in fact,
will it be Galactus as well, or?
Well, yeah, I would think so. But my understanding is that how we had the Werewolf by Night show, that special edition show that they did. I think they're going to do that with Silver Surfer.
Silver Surfer, that'd be cool. Yeah. Like I'd like it if they did it with like the Norrin Radd, do his origin and kind of show why he's such a an emotionally strong character. Like there's actually that whole emotional story to him. I really do like.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really important piece of it. I mean, I've had opportunity to read a lot of that. Trade wise, or because I was interested, I'm going to check this out. And so
funny thing is, I've been just reading like those early Fantastic Fours with the storyline for Silver Surfer. I've just been, I kind of go through these binges where I'll read like a certain storyline, so that's what I've been reading lately. So it's kind of funny,
right? I know, I'm with you on that. Like, I confessed to everyone the other day that I've never read Crisis of Infinite Earths.
So I was being quiet, but I hadn't read it either. I'm actually, I mentioned I'm reading Silver Surfer, the Silver Surfer thing, but right now I just finished book 1 and 2, the first 2 comics in the series of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Not bad so far.
It's right.
There's so many characters that you have to like I don't know, I wasn't familiar with all of them, so it's
Right.
interesting.
Well, it's also the first Blue Beetle in the DC universe is in issue 1,
Yeah,
or on
yeah.
cover of issue 1.
Well, they bring a lot of characters that were originally Fawcett characters
Mhm.
into that book. It's their first appearances, or not just Fawcett, but Charlton. So Blue Beetle's
Yes.
one,
Yeah.
for example, and I forget what the other ones were. Captain Atom, I believe.
Yeah, Captain Adam, and I think there's
There's
a detective guy too that
the
shows up in that.
Question.
Yeah, the Question.
Is it the
And
Question? I think
no, I
that's
think
the
maybe
detective.
I thought it was Ned Leeds or something like that. I don't know who it
Yeah,
was
there's
for
a
sure.
there's a whole bunch
Yeah.
of first DC appearances of random
Hmm.
characters. So yeah, so I'm learning about the Monitor and all these kind of interesting characters, and it's so far it's okay. It's an
Yeah,
interesting read.
I'm looking forward to reading it because it's like I read Final Crisis as it came out because my father-in-law was so the kind of thing that I mean I never really was out of comics. I was still buying 4 issues a month for even when I wasn't spending a lot of comic money on comics for a while. Um, so hopefully you're not hearing too much background noise there. My
It's
daughter
usually
just
my
came
house
out
that
of her
has that.
room. So
Yeah, yeah.
we were he got me into the Green Lantern series that came out right before Flashpoint and all that stuff, and right before the I don't know the Ring series where it had all the different colored rings and all this stuff. So
Oh,
the
okay.
Gary the one with that was drawn by Gary Frank and
He's got
written
like the
by
ring like on
Jeff
his hand,
Johns.
like all the rings and.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I read this whole storyline that because so like a couple different things. Like I used to follow. I stopped after I wasn't following artists as much anymore. I started following writers, and at the time I was really big Kevin Smith fan, right? Because I
Mhm.
was in my 20s, so dick and fart jokes are funny, and so that's what. And so that's and so but then he was writing comics and I picked up his so I picked up his Daredevil run and I loved the Daredevil run. It was awesome.
Mhm.
And then when he switched over to DC and did when he did the Green Arrow, I I loved that story, and I loved how because it was already after the Parallax situation, and Hal Jordan was the Spectre,
Okay.
and the whole point was that he just thought it was wrong that his best friend was still dead, and so he figured out a
And
way to
bring him
bring
back.
his best friend back to life, and so Green Arrow's back to life, and so they and then the whole storyline bringing the Green Lantern back, Hal Jordan back to life from being the Spectre, and the separation of that storyline, and then
Mhm.
so then I move I Kim and I meet just a few years later, and I'm hanging out, and her dad's like, "Oh yeah, I collect comics too." So I go out into this garage, and there's 30 long boxes of comics,
Wow. Wow.
and and I'm just like, I don't even know where to begin. So we start going through stuff. It's a lot of moderns. It's a lot of stuff. There's some older stuff, but there's a lot of modern stuff. He actually has a bunch of old Tales of Suspense and things like that,
Mhm.
uh, and so which we used to pay for certain things when we move him up here and all that stuff. So,
Mhm.
but all this, it was a great collection, and he had a lot of doubles. So a lot of the doubles became my comics just because he wanted
Nice.
me to
He's
have them.
like, oh,
Like,
here you can have it. Yeah.
here you go, take 2 long boxes home with you this time and this trip.
Wow. Wow. That's a good
So yeah, I
parent-in-law.
mean, yeah. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun getting to know him and talking about those things, and we he does I'm do a shout out. He does a comic book blog called Comics Talk, with
Oh, okay.
comicstalk.com. And that's he's been doing that for about 12 years, maybe
Oh,
even a little
wow.
bit longer. He mostly focuses on kind of the pop culture side of comic book stuff, but like movie reviews for the comic book movies. He
Mhm.
talks about older comics a lot. He's talks about different things that he's experienced. He actually has a reader on his site, so you can read stuff that has become that's greater than 50 years old, so he can. It's I can't think of it. It no longer copyright. There's no copyright infringement.
Oh, so you can basically
online. So
read the old books. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a bunch of old books online that you can read and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool that way. So, all right. Well,
Yeah,
I'm
let
gonna
show some more books. We gotta rapid
then I'm
fire
gonna go,
now. Rapid fire
okay.
books.
All right. Well, then this is good because these are the wall books, and I'm just going to show some of the wall books. Like,
Sure.
I got this really cool poster from Brian of one of the first trades I did with him more recently. It's this cover, with a print of the sketch cover by Neil Adams.
Oh, nice.
Together in one paint and in one frame, and it comes with a certificate of authenticity and a photograph of Neil Adams signing that particular poster. And so I'm like, I got to get the book. So I got the book,
cool.
and it is kind of this whole early Catwoman character. And what's really interesting about this book is that in the German edition of this book, all the girls are completely clothed. So anywhere you see skin, anywhere, clothed. They clothe them on the German edition. It's kind of an interesting.
Weird.
It was an interesting weirdness. We had gone some cons, and so my wife loves older Superman stories and Superman covers. So she picked up these posters, these 11 by 14 posters. So I got some of them framed, and so we have this one on the wall. So like I said, I buy a wall, but I want the comic.
Yeah, you want the comic that matches.
Right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Exactly. So I picked this up. This was it's not an expensive book. It was $12. It's a nice. It's a
good transformation one where he's going from Clark Kent to Superman. Yeah,
exactly. And then this one, I love this cover. The poster, when I read it, I was like, I couldn't believe that it was actually a custom cover. I mean, it says on it, It's like, "Let go of him, Zatanna. He belongs to me. He's mine. Not in your life."
I think that's like one of their first crossovers, like where they're both together. I think I have that book.
It's a great book. I love it. It's just one of those really great books. Issue 7. I had
really
issue
like
1
both
for a long time.
So that's
yeah. Zatanna is one of my favorite DC magical characters. I just find her completely fascinating. This is like literally one of my favorite Captain America covers of all time.
That's a great floating head cover.
Yeah, it is. I just love. It's got a really well designed cover to it, so I really like that design, the aspect of it, and that's one of those things. And so that's a part of the big poster. That's actually one of the top line of the poster.
Okay.
This is the last cover on the poster. It's Thor versus Hercules.
And it's the first appearance of, or is it the first cover?
It's their first fight. It's their first
fight.
First cover.
I was trying to remember.
Yeah, it's their first fight.
But I thought it was the first cover appearance of Zeus or something like that as well.
It might be the first cover appearance of Zeus. Like, because I know the previous issue also is him there on in their universe, in the gods' homeland, and all that stuff, and on Mount Olympus. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But it is their first battle, and I love, and it's such a great cover and so cool that way. And then another one of the books on here is Spider-Man 70. I
always like that one.
I love this cover. This is such a beautiful cover, and I think this is the first appearance of someone too. And I can't remember who, but I thought it was.
Sure. I have no idea. I know the cover. I mean, it's a classic cover.
It's a classic cover.
It's one that actually I don't have. It's on my want list, but I don't have that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and then one of the harder books out of these to find, which this one is not in amazing condition, but it was also a Spider-Man cover. It's The Madness of Mysterio. I love this cover. I mean, it is, and it's like one of my favorites. I love Mysterio as a bad guy. He's an interesting
I always
character.
like his costume design, like especially because of South Park. You know how they sort of have Mysterio.
Yeah.
I always found it great.
Yeah, totally. And then the one of the books that I thought I would never own, but I do own in a probably in a 1 or a 2 condition is.
Oh wow!
Tales
so we talked about this, and I was like, "That's it. That is a big book. That's a great one."
Yeah, It is, and I got it for a steal, and I'm so happy I got it. It was amazing for I can't even believe I couldn't believe I got it when I got it. It was like I can't believe I'm paying this price for this. I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, they're letting it go for this price. Can I buy it? Because
Yeah,
big deal, big book where we talk about these things because it's
Mhm.
important, have those conversations with them and
I
with
paid way too much for that book.
yeah
Mine's
I
even color touched too. It's like so nice.
yeah mine on the first page on the inside there's a tear right here on the first page,
Mhm.
but the rest of the
But it
book
still looks nice.
is gorgeous and it presents really well. It's very nice.
Mm.
So, but it's got a bunch of spine ticks and I think one of the staples are gone. So I have 2 books left.
Okay.
And they're both kind of special to me because these are stuff. This is the because
I was
being
thinking,
an
do you
artist.
actually ever get slabs? And now you answered that question.
Yes, I do. I have actually about a month ago, up until about a month ago, I had about 100 and almost 200 slabs.
Oh, okay.
I was
So
doing. I
that's
was selling.
a lot of
A
slabs.
lot of it was. A lot of it was for selling. I was buying to sell stuff and sell stuff to keep my collection going. This is a book that I personally had Terry Dodson draw this for me.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a convention. I went to Emerald City Comic Con, and I knew he was going to be there. And I happened to have this. Walter, my father-in-law, had bought me a blank cover of Supergirl, and I was like, "If there's anybody I want to draw Supergirl for me,
Nice.
if I can't get Adam Hughes, I want Terry Dodson." And I talked to him for an hour while he drew this the whole time. Had
I'm just amazed
CGC
they
come
got a
over.
9.8 though.
Yeah, well, it was such a great. That book was untouched. It was never opened. I don't know. It was beautiful when we got it, and then I see CGC was there watching him draw it the whole time too with me, and the guy from CGC in Seattle area was such a nice guy. It was like, oh, that's just he was really cool, and we had a lot of fun talking and talked about what he does and how he got into it. Now, this I just got on Sunday when I turned 50.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from my father-in-law, and it is a Ramos sketch variant cover of the Ramos #1 of Amazing Spider-Man 2014 first.
The spidery one where it's like.
Yeah. Well, no, this is the one that has silk, the first silk in it. Not silk, but her.
I know
the girl.
about.
Yeah. And so, and the woman who is Silk, but it was so cool. I mean, he found this and got it for me like a month ago, and it came in the mail. And we get a lot of comics. We buy a lot of stuff, and we buy a lot of stuff to resell, to grade and resell, and to build out. I mean, so for right now, just kind of give you an insight into my world of comics a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Is so I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. I have 27 short boxes of comics that are just my collection.
Okay, so that's your PC. Yeah,
that's my PC. And on the other side of the room, I have 2 deep, 4 high, 6 across.
So that's
4 times 6, 24, 48.
48, yeah.
And then another row, another 5 across going the other way.
Oh wow.
So another.
So 98 or 88.
Yeah.
88.
No, 88 short boxes of stuff that I potentially will sell. That's
a lot of books.
Yes. So I mean, I was trying to start one of the things I was trying to do is I kind of wanted to have this was going to be my
retirement,
my side gig. No, I was just if I was retiring on it, it would be kind of the thing where I would just be doing for fun. Like I'd be retiring on it in the sense of this will be the extra scratch we need beyond my Social Security, beyond my retirement.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I wanted to get it started now. I mean, that's where Comics Limited came from. Is I had Walter and I had picked up that domain like 10 years ago.
Okay.
And so he's had it for a long time. He held it for me for a long time. So this year I started a business. The business name is Limited Edition Collectibles.
Okay.
And we do, for the comics part of it, we do business as Comics Limited.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's cool.
And so
do you sell through eBay or through Instagram? Where do you primarily sell?
So I sell primarily on eBay. I have a Whatnot channel that I've done a couple of shows on Whatnot. And then I also have tried selling on Hip Comics.
Okay,
I've sold on Shortboxed. Shortboxed was interesting. Like, it was weird. The right books, if you put those up, they hit and they go. Like within a day. You could have I had 12 books, graded books up on there. All of them not super high, all high grades. Not overly desired books, but all 9/8, and well under their fair market value. Because I got them for
that will make them sell quickly, anyways. Yeah,
you would think, right? You would think, but they sat on there for 2 months and didn't sell at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not kidding, man. I had things on there that I had a Thunderbolts #1 because they had announced Thunderbolts, right? And
so that should be a quick sell,
Ross, right?
Yeah,
and that book, fair market value was at that point in time. Fair market value was about $225.
Wow.
I had it listed because I paid cover price for it because it was one that I had in my PC, and I paid cover price for it. I sent it in and had it graded and all that stuff, and it came back as a 9/8. I'm like, oh, this is sweet, this is great, you know?
Good money.
Yeah, so I'm like, way cool, and I put it up. So I put it up. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go under fair market value. I put it up for $195. Thinking, okay, that's a good deal, right? You know, it's a fair price. I got a good deal. I can give a good deal to someone. And then I was like thinking, you know, if someone offers me $175, I'll take it, right? And I was like, offers are available on that site, not a single offer. So then I'm like, okay, hey, you know what? It's a hot book. I know it's selling. I'll put it up on eBay. So I put it up on eBay. I put it up on eBay for $195 with a make offer value of $175. Crickets.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I would have thought it would just sell. Like, I mean, that was like on every hot list, that book.
Yeah, it just didn't. It was the craziest thing. But eventually, it did sell, and I did sell it for $175. That's what I got it for. But the price had came down to that point when that's when it sold. I mean, I was like, I put it at $175.
Maybe people just thought it was overvalued, overhyped, and didn't want to pay.
I mean, you have characters that are going to be coming out. You have, you know,
they're making a movie, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Han Solo is playing General Ross. He's going to be the Red Hulk. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, maybe. Who knows now?
With
the strikes.
Yeah, it's everything's delayed, right? So probably a couple of years.
Yeah.
Totally. Wow.
So
other than selling these extra books, what else are you up to?
Well, okay, so in life in general, I kind of am an eclectic person, right? So I do, like you see, I do art. I actually do engineer. I'm an engineer for my job. I've worked for a major telecommunications company. I'm not going to say which one. And I work in the cloud. It's so funny. Tell you a little story. I went to school to become for art. Like, I was going to school to become an artist. I was going to be an art. I thought my backup would be art teacher. My goal was to work for a comic book company or illustrator for illustrations. I was going to do the whole kind of the idea of what artists do. You contract, right? And I was going to become a contractor for that. And so that was kind of my goal at that point in time. And I had this hobby on computers.
Oh, okay.
Like, I've been a hobbyist since, like, I mean, my first computer was a Commodore 64 that I had when I was in junior high, right?
I had
And so then
2,000 games for that silly device, but
yes, exactly. And then and you know, and because we had a local computer store where you could rent the games
Mhm.
and you could copy the games, I just
Yeah,
filled up any space hard drive
I had
thing that
so
I
many
could make
floppy disks with games.
copied games. Yep.
Yeah, I would. I,
Yep.
I remember back in the day going on the early version of the internet where it was like the BBBs, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the BBs or the bulletin boards.
BBSs, yeah.
Yeah, and then getting games. You could find games online, and they were small,
Yeah.
right? They're Commodore 64 games, so they're
Yeah.
pretty small.
Right.
So
Right. And
yeah,
then
I loved it. I love that
I
computer.
stayed on BBSs all the way up until I was until 90, like 92 was the year that I got my first internet connection that was for actual internet, not
Yeah,
just email, not just
yeah,
I was connecting to local ISP. Here was this one called Pacifier because the owner of it had just had a kid and had a pacifier, so I don't know. That's why I named it
weird
that.
name. Okay.
I know, but so I was connecting. It was funny. There was a trick to it too. They had this their their they had this 2 hour where you could pay for 2 hours a day. They didn't have it set up in such a way that they had it set up in such a way they didn't know how many times you'd log in a day. So you could get kicked off for your 2 hour mark, and then
Just
within a couple minutes relog in, and no one knew. I was always like, you could be on for 24/7, just relogging in every
yeah.
couple hours. I
But
played
they probably
my
didn't
favorite.
think that people would use the internet that much. But and
Right,
nowadays it's everyone's on
everything, right?
24/7. Yeah.
Right. I played on a local BBS myself. We played Legends of the Red Dragon was our big game. So
Oh, cool.
and I had a friend who was an admin, so I got all the cool weapons.
I remember playing. Do you know Mud? Is it Mud or
Yeah. Legends of the Red
uh,
Dragon was a mud. So
yeah, yeah,
multi-user dungeon.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I that's what I played in first year of university. You know, and that was
Nice.
like very primitive, very like it's not like it's very primitive.
You go north, south, east, or west, or you
Yeah,
have and it was always a command, and then to attack was A or your space
yeah,
bar, whichever one you
exactly.
had set
Yeah.
up. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those were the days.
Yeah,
So,
a friend of mine gave me lost games of Infocom,
okay.
so I played Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, I know that one too. Yeah.
That was the best game because it doesn't give you any information, and you all you know is that you hear a noise and you wake
Yeah,
up
you hear
and
noise. It's like what the
and then you're
I
supposed to
remember that.
figure out you have to figure out how to get out of bed. That was the thing. It's
Yeah,
like you were like, what is the
just getting out of that first room that you're in is like really hard.
oh yeah. Yeah.
Like you
But
gotta
it teaches you all the structure you need to know to be able to play the rest of the game. But it was so amazing. I mean,
just for
yeah, it
people
was
that
so hard.
don't know, this is like a purely text game. And you got like very simple commands, very little like information being provided, and you're getting like tidbits, and then you gotta put all those things together, then you get something, and then that leads to, it's very like pulling like
Yeah.
but yeah.
It's puzzle games of
Mhm.
those days were insane. So, but yeah, I mean, that's all that. And so I'm at university. I'm at Eastern Washington University, going to school to get my my bachelor's of arts and fine arts.
Mhm.
And I was working in the computer lab. I got a gig in the computer lab, and I really was good at it. Like,
Okay, that's good. That's
astoundingly good at it, to the point of someone would tell me how to do something, and then I was running our Pine server you remember Pine for email?
wow.
I ran our
do
Pine
remember
server.
Pine.
Yeah,
That wow. I haven't heard that word for like
right.
long
Well,
time.
it's so funny. I got back into Linux a few years ago because of my work.
Okay.
And I was doing I was trying to I was using Vi is an text editor.
Yep.
Or VI. Well, I didn't like VI. It's good. It's got a lot of weird commands, but it's like, why do I need to do all these extra commands? Isn't there a text editor that's better? Like, give me some sort of terminal text editor, right? Well, someone goes, "Hey, have you tried Nano?" And I'm like, "No." So I type in Nano, and it's basically it's pine. It's
Oh
literally the
wow.
same thing, the same pine shell, and but
Wow.
it's a text editor, and so all the commands are the same. So it was like, oh, this is easy. I'm never using Vi again.
Wow, that's cool.
So
I though I really appreciate this version of geekdom. Like
yeah,
I'm actually a computer guy myself. Like
but
back in the day. Well, still today. But quickly, so we can wrap up. Where can people find you? What are you up to in terms of comics?
okay.
In terms of
Yeah, so you can always find me on YouTube. Comics Limited on YouTube is my main
channel?
source of where I'm putting all my content. You can find me on Instagram the same way, Comics Limited, on Instagram as well. Those are the two main places that I put content up.
Okay.
We're going to be seeing some more art.
And I'll put those links in the comment in the description, people. So check those out.
Absolutely,
Go
yeah.
subscribe them. Subscribe.
And then, yeah, subscribe me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I only have 126 followers on YouTube. It's strangely
Okay.
enough.
Well, we got to get you up to 127.
Yes, that's what I want.
That's
127. In fact, I'm going to be putting up a video today. Right as soon as we end, I have a video to put up on some stuff I want on Whatnot. So a lot of my videos, that's what there are, is the things that I get in the week and come through my house.
Cool.
And I try to make cool titles for them. I'm starting to branch out a little bit and do some more kind of reviewing of older stuff, things that I haven't read before. I'm reading it and then going to review it. Like I did a little thing.
I mean,
I
think a lot of people don't have that history or knowledge of the actual books. You know, even us, we didn't read, Crisis of Infinite Earths, and now we're both like, oh, we're so lame. We got to read that. So I'm sure there's other people that feel that kind of that way. So having this like Cole's Notes version of it would be useful.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna kind of I actually my goal over the next year is to read all the Crisis events, kind of.
Oh, okay.
Get them all back together and because Final
Flashpoint
Crisis
was good. I liked Flashpoint.
Flashpoint was great. Although I only read the Batman portion of it, so that's the part of it I actually have never read the rest of the story. So I've got to pick that up. That's another one I have to pick up and read through. So. I was kind of a Batman snob when that came out, and so it was like Snyder was doing I think Detective at the time, and it was really good. And then they're gonna take my Snyder comic away from me, and then he comes back and he's doing Batman when he comes back, and I was like, oh, this is great, and basically kept the character virtually the same as
I think they're really nervous about changing Batman.
Yeah.
So yeah, but okay. So thanks again for coming on. We'll have to do this again.
Next time I'm just bringing X-Men. I'm just gonna bring X-Men. X-Men.
That'd be fun.
Because I literally could go through everything I showed you today and show the same artist, all just X-Men stuff. And for me it's because that's the comic book I would say that most guided my influence of what how I think of comics and stuff like that. So
cool. Okay, well, thanks again, everyone.
Absolutely.
Check out his channel, and bye for now.
Bye. See you later, guys.